Michael Jordan was driving through downtown Chicago when he saw a homeless man digging through trash. Something about the man's movements looked familiar. When he got closer and saw the face, Michael's world stopped. It was Coach Williams, the man who had taught him everything about basketball, now living under a bridge with nothing but the clothes on his back. This is the story of a discovery that would haunt Michael Jordan, challenge everything he thought he knew about success, and lead to one of the most incredible acts of loyalty ever witnessed. By the end of this story, you'll understand that sometimes the people who lift us up the highest are the ones who fall the farthest, and why Michael Jordan considers finding Coach Williams the most important moment of his entire life. March 15, 2003. Michael Jordan had been retired from basketball for 3 months, but he couldn't stay away from Chicago. On this particular afternoon, he was driving his Mercedes through the South Side, heading to a meeting with his business partners. Traffic slowed near the Roosevelt Road Bridge. Construction had narrowed the lanes, and as Michael inched forward, his attention was caught by movement near the bridge supports. A homeless encampment had formed there, a collection of tents, shopping carts, and makeshift shelters. But Michael noticed everything. It was a habit from his playing days. An older man was bent over a dumpster, methodically searching through the contents. There was something about his movements that struck Michael as odd. Most homeless people moved with desperation. This man moved with purpose, with a systematic approach that seemed almost coached. Michael pulled his car over, ignoring the honking from cars behind him. He couldn't explain why, but he felt compelled to get a closer look. As he approached on foot, the man straightened up, holding what looked like a piece of cardboard. That's when Michael saw his face. The man was probably in his 70s, with white hair and a beard that hadn't been trimmed in months. His clothes were dirty and layered, multiple shirts, a torn jacket, pants that had seen better days. But it was the eyes that Michael recognized. Even aged, even tired, even clouded with confusion, those eyes belonged to someone who had once commanded absolute respect in a high school gymnasium. "Coach Williams?" Michael called out, his voice barely above a whisper. The man turned toward the sound, but didn't seem to focus on Michael. His eyes had the distant, unfocused look of someone whose mind was no longer entirely present. "Coach Williams, it's me. It's Michael Jordan." For a moment, there was a flicker of something in the old man's eyes. Recognition? Confusion? "Do I know you, son?" Coach Williams asked, his voice raspy from years of living rough. Michael felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. This man had been more than a coach to him. Coach Williams had been the first person to believe in Michael's potential, the one who had taught him not just basketball fundamentals, but life lessons about discipline, respect, and never giving up. And now, he was living under a bridge, and he didn't even remember who Michael was. "Yes, sir," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "You know me. You coached me at Laney High School in Wilmington. You changed my life, Coach." Coach Williams studied Michael's face with intense concentration. "Basketball?" he said finally. "Yes, sir, basketball." "I coached basketball," Coach Williams said, as if trying to convince himself. "Long time ago. Had some good players. Some of them did real well for themselves." Michael's heart broke a little more with each word. This man who had shaped his life was now struggling to remember his own career. "Coach, what are you doing here? Where do you live?" Williams gestured vaguely toward the bridge supports. "Been staying around here for a while. Nice folks down here. They look out for each other." Michael looked around at the homeless encampment, trying to process what he was seeing. How had this happened? "Coach, do you have family? Someone who takes care of you?" Williams' expression became confused, almost frightened. "Family? I think so, maybe. Sometimes I can't remember things so good anymore." That's when Michael noticed the medical bracelet on Williams' wrist. He gently took the man's hand and read it. "James Williams, dementia, emergency contact," followed by a phone number. Dementia. That explained everything. "Coach, I'm going to help you, okay? I'm going to make sure you're safe." Michael pulled out his phone and called the number on the medical bracelet. A woman answered on the third ring. "Hello? Hi, my name is Michael Jordan. I'm calling about James Williams. I found him living homeless under a bridge in Chicago and—" "Oh my God," the woman interrupted. "You found my father? We've been looking for him for 3 weeks. He walked away from the care facility and we couldn't. Wait, did you say Michael Jordan? Yes, ma'am. I was Coach Williams' student at Laney High School. He was my basketball coach. There was a long pause. The Michael Jordan? The basketball player? Yes, ma'am. Oh my God. Dad used to talk about you all the time. He was so proud. Before the dementia got bad, he would tell everyone about coaching Michael Jordan. Michael felt tears forming in his eyes. Ma'am, what's your name? Linda. Linda Williams Johnson. I'm his daughter. Linda, can you tell me what happened? How did Coach Williams end up on the streets? Linda's voice broke as she explained. Dad was in a memory care facility in Evanston. It's expensive, really expensive. My husband and I were struggling to pay for it, but we were managing. Then 3 weeks ago, Dad had one of his clear days. Sometimes he remembers everything for a few hours. And he overheard me on the phone with the facility's billing department. She paused, collecting herself. He heard me telling them we might need to move him to a less expensive place. That night, he walked out. Just left. We think he didn't want to be a burden anymore. Michael looked at Coach Williams, who was now sitting on a piece of cardboard, staring off into the distance. This proud man had chosen to live on the streets rather than burden his family. Linda, where are you now? About an hour away. Should I come get him? Yes, but let's meet at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I want to make sure he's okay medically. And Linda, we need to talk about a lot of things. 2 hours later, Michael sat in a hospital room, watching as doctors examined Coach Williams. Linda Williams Johnson had arrived, a woman in her 40s with her father's eyes and a strength that reminded Michael of the coach he remembered. The doctors say he's dehydrated and malnourished, but otherwise okay, Linda said. They want to keep him overnight for observation. Good, Michael said. Linda, I need to understand something. Your father was one of the most respected coaches in North Carolina. Didn't he have a pension? Linda's expression darkened. He did. Had a small pension from the school district and Social Security. But Dad made some bad investments in his 60s, lost most of his retirement savings. Then Mom got sick, cancer, and the medical bills wiped out what was left. She wiped her eyes. After Mom died 5 years ago, Dad started showing signs of dementia. Last year he fell and broke his hip. That's when we knew he couldn't live alone anymore. What does the memory care facility cost? $8,000 a month. My husband and I make decent livings, but we have 2 kids in college. We were using up our savings, taking loans against our 401k. Dad must have figured out we were in trouble financially. Michael did quick mental math. $8,000 a month was nearly $100,000 a year. For a middle-class family, that was devastating. Linda, I have to be honest with you. I never stayed in touch with your father after high school. I moved on to college, then the NBA, and I never looked back. Mr. Jordan, you don't owe— Yes, I do, Michael interrupted. Your father gave me the foundation for everything I achieved. Every lesson about discipline, about never giving up, that all came from him. And when I became successful, I was too busy to even check on the man who made it all possible. They stood in silence for a moment, watching Coach Williams sleep. Linda, I want to ask you something. If money wasn't an issue, if your father could afford the best care available, would that help him? Of course it would help. But Mr. Jordan, we can't accept— I'm not talking about charity, Michael said firmly. I'm talking about paying a debt. Your father invested in my future when I was 17 years old. It's time I paid him back with interest. The next morning, Michael found Coach Williams awake and alert, talking quietly with Linda. Good morning, Coach, Michael said. Williams looked up, and for a moment his eyes were completely clear. Michael Jordan, he said with certainty. My point guard. Michael's heart leaped. Yes, sir, your point guard. You turned out pretty good, Williams said with a slight smile. Better than I thought you would when you couldn't hit a free throw to save your life. Linda gasped. It was the most coherent her father had been in weeks. You remember? Michael asked. Some days I remember everything, Williams said. Other days I can't remember what I had for breakfast. Today's a good day. He studied Michael's face. Linda tells me you found me under that bridge yesterday. Yes, sir. That must have been quite a shock. How did the great Coach Williams end up living with the homeless folks? Williams asked. Truth is, Michael, life has a way of humbling everyone eventually. Coach, you don't have to— Let me finish, Williams said with authority. I made some bad choices with money. When Martha got sick, I would have given every penny to save her anyway. After she died, I was lost. Then my mind started going. He paused. The thing is, Michael, I don't regret any of it. I had 43 years of doing what I loved. When you're on the streets, you realize that money, houses, cars, none of that really matters. What matters is the lives you touched. Coach, you touched my life in ways you'll never know. I hope so. That was always the goal. Williams turned to Michael. Now Linda tells me you want to help an old man. It's not charity, Coach. It's gratitude. Williams studied him for a long moment. You know what I always told my players about accepting help? Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let someone else be strong for you. Michael felt a surge of relief. So you'll let me take care of everything? On one condition. I want to coach again. Michael was confused. Coach, the dementia. I know I can't coach a real team anymore, but there are probably other old coaches out there, forgotten like I was, and there are probably young coaches who could learn from our experience. Williams's voice grew stronger. What if we created something? A place where retired coaches could share their knowledge with the next generation. Not just basketball, but life lessons, character building. Michael's mind raced. Like a coaching academy? Exactly. Somewhere young coaches could learn how to shape young people. And it would give purpose to old coaches like me. Even on my bad days, I might be able to share something valuable. Michael was getting excited. Coach, that's brilliant. Michael, you made over $1 billion playing a game I taught you the fundamentals of. I think you can afford it. Michael laughed. You're absolutely right, Coach. Consider it done. 6 months later, the Coach Williams Leadership Academy opened its doors on a beautiful campus just outside Chicago. Coach Williams had been given a private suite with round-the-clock medical care, but he spent most of his time teaching young coaches. Michael had become a regular fixture at the academy, not just as a benefactor, but as a student again. Every Tuesday, he would sit in on Coach Williams's sessions. The thing about coaching, Williams told a group of young instructors, is that you're not really teaching basketball, you're teaching life. Basketball is just the language you use. The academy had already graduated its first class of young coaches, who were now working in schools across the country. They carried with them not just technical knowledge, but the values that Coach Williams had instilled in generations of players. One evening, Michael found Coach Williams sitting alone outside, looking up at the stars. "Good evening, Coach," Michael said, sitting beside him. "Evening, Michael. Hell of a day today." It was. You should be proud. Those young coaches are going to change a lot of lives. That's the idea. Williams was quiet for a moment. Michael, what you've done here. This isn't about paying back some debt. What you've done is bigger than gratitude. You've created something that will outlast both of us. Williams turned to look at Michael directly. That's not paying back a debt. That's creating a legacy. We created it together, Coach. Finding me under that bridge, that wasn't an accident. You were supposed to find me, not just to help me, but to remember something important. Success isn't about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you make possible for others. Today, the Coach Williams Leadership Academy continues to thrive. It has trained over 1,000 coaches and created a support network for retired educators that ensures no coach will ever be forgotten again. In the Academy's main lobby, there's a bronze statue of Coach Williams demonstrating a basketball stance to a young player. The plaque reads, James Williams, 1932 to 2008. He taught us that the real game is played in the heart. Next to it is a smaller plaque with his favorite saying, Success is not about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you make possible for others. Because sometimes the greatest victories come not from winning championships, but from remembering the people who made those championships possible. Sometimes finding someone you thought you'd lost forever is really about finding the best part of yourself. Coach Williams may have been found under a bridge, forgotten by the world, but he died surrounded by love, in a place dedicated to ensuring his wisdom would never be forgotten again. That's what happens when we choose to honor the people who shaped us while we still can.